are coming to you and they are saying, well, I'm looking for my soulmate. I really, really want to have a soulmate. And I had a true story. I had a woman who really just kept on me and on me about, I really want to find my soulmate, Richard. And I said, well, if you find your soulmate, what is going to change? Because a lot of things are going to change in your life. What are the changes that you will not like? And she really didn't hesitate very much. And she said, well, you know, I sure don't want to put up with sports in my living room on a weekend, I can tell you that. And I don't really want to be doing the washing for a man. You know, he's going to have to do his own washing. And I'm not too keen on all of a sudden cooking for two people. I'd certainly like to have him do half the cooking. And I'm not really, I'm not so sure I'm going to like his friends, and he probably won't like mine. And of relatives, that's a huge thing. And it just kept going. It was just going and going and going. And I did have to say, well, I wonder why you don't have a soulmate. I wonder why you do not have a relationship. And obviously, she was not too clear on her intent. And being clear on your intent is a great deal of what finding a soulmate, I think, is all about. I used to say that a soulmate is not going to come knocking on your door, that you are going to have to act, to do something, to find the soulmate. And then my daughter, who's 20 years old, her soulmate actually crawled in the window of her bedroom. Not kidding. It's just that the kids just used to have musical, you know, doors and windows in the house. And this guy came over, he'd heard that, you know, there was a fun place to be on Friday night or whatever, and he came crawling in her window, and they've been together ever since. So I guess maybe if you are clear enough on your intent, you could have your soulmate come in your window. I had Ariel Ford on my radio show on Wednesday. Most of you know who she is, I'm sure, Debbie Ford's sister, and she's just a delight. And she talked about how a soulmate of one of her friends came to the door. So it can obviously happen if you are really clear on your intent and you're sending out the vibration, I guess. So, but for most of us, we're going to have to act. The root meaning of the word karma is action. So we're going to have to act when it comes to generating a soulmate. And research has shown that single people who are lonely, they tend to have rigid and demanding expectations about their relationship. So perfectionism is not really a positive trait when it comes to establishing a relationship. So I'm going to skip, if we have time, we'll come back to it. A section here on the different types of soulmate. But I want to make sure I get in other parts of this in the short time that we have. So I'm going to skip forward, and I am going to just give you the bottom line here on what I have observed. Now, I've written a lot of books on soulmates, and I'm usually writing from a perspective of reincarnation. Because if you have a soulmate in your life, this is predestined. This is the result of you two coming back together again. It's not going to happen otherwise. And there's one thing that I have found in keeping really good records on this aspect of my work, is that soulmates, when you have a guy and a gal, or two gals or two guys, who really love each other, who come together in anything close to what I would call a twin flame or a counterpart type of relationship, they tend to be very self-actualized. This seems to be the most common trait of someone that has a soulmate relationship. In other words, when I say self-actualized, I mean that they accept other people without expectations, without judgment, without blame, and without trying to control the other person. Self-actualization, accepting someone else without expectations or judgment or blame or trying to control. So here are 6 key questions that I like to ask. And I might ask them very informally, just in a conversational manner, but I like to get this in when I'm working with someone in this capacity. And first of all, I will ask if there is a hidden payoff. Secondary gain is what you probably learned if you learned your hypnosis through this organization. I usually call it a hidden payoff, a negative payoff. But is there a negative payoff in remaining single? And that's, of course, what we're having, what I'm asking when I ask somebody, what are the changes that you do not like? So, explore this. If you find a soulmate, a mate, what's going to change that you do not like? Now that's going to explain the negative payoff. Chances are it's going to explain. Number 2, do you know how to give? Very important. I know people who claim to want a relationship, and basically they are takers. They are me type of people. And they will talk endlessly about themselves without showing any interest in others. So giving is an important matter. And it's a matter of showing respect, really. So do you know how to give? And number 3 is, are you realistic? I know a 43-year-old woman. Again, true story. She's 43, and she is really attracted to younger men. But when a guy in his mid-50s, really nice-looking, successful guy, asked her out, she was horrified that he had the nerve to ask her out on a date. So, not that there's anything wrong with liking the younger guys, of course not. But to be halfway realistic, if all of a sudden, if you're taking most people who are a little bit older than you and totally rejecting them as being crazy for even asking you out, well, that doesn't seem to me to be too realistic. Now, this is somebody I know and care for. I know her very well. So, are you open to trust? That's number 4.